All right, so good to have you. Join us. It's still the weekend politics, and we're live here on CRBC TV Calabar. Now, we just had a lengthy political discourse there with Idem. Now, we are moving it to the international space where we'll be looking at what is happening around the Middle East region. We have Israel being in combat with a lot of battles around it. They're not yet done with the Gaza. Now it's a moment with Iran. So join us to put this on the right perspective. We have Idem Emmanuel. Idem Emmanuel is a geopolitical analyst and security expert. Idem, so good to have you join us. Good evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And welcome to Weekend Politics. Idem is a first timer on the show. So Idem, let's quickly, I'd like you to, those that are watching, let's get to know what is really the subject matter between Israel and Iran.
Okay, thank you very much. I think before the animosity between Israel and Iran, we have to go back to history. Before now, Israel and Iran enjoys very good diplomatic ties. In the 1950s, in fact, in 1950, whilst Iran was still a monarchy regime, Iran was one of the first countries in the Middle East, a non-Arab nation, to have recognized the independence of Israel, which was in 1948. Israel got its independence in 1948, but Iran recognized them in 1950. Before now, there used to be very good diplomatic relationship between Israel and Iran. Flights from Tel Aviv in Israel to Tehran, the capital of Iran, was quite very frequent. In fact, during the monarchy regime, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the Israeli intelligence Mossad was responsible for helping Iran under the monarchy to establish SAVAK, which was an intelligence organization. They trained the SAVAK, which was an intelligence organization that protected and consolidated the power of the Shah, the monarchy government then in Iran. Fast forward to 1979. In 1979, Iran began its revolution, a revolution that was led by Ruhollah Khomeini, who was the first supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Iran became an Islamic republic in 1979. When it became an Islamic republic, there was a serious diplomatic issue between Iran and Israel.
Okay.
And this is actually because Iran chose to, because of its history with Israel and the United States, Iran decided to support the Palestinian cause. So the conflict between Israel and Iran is basically because of Iran's foreign policy in support of the Palestinian cause. You do remember that in 1947, the United Nations General Assembly agreed for a two-state solution, which we have the United Nations Charter 181. In that charter, there was supposed to be a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict. And Israel, immediately after this resolution was passed in 1947, went on in 1948 to declare itself independent, and the United States recognized them. Russia followed, and the British government also followed. And from that time, the Israeli government, to be frank, the Israeli government has been pursuing an apartheid regime. There have been segregation, there have been persecution of the Palestinian. Israel is trying to expand its territorial territory in the Middle East. So they have a grand scheme of an expansionist agenda.
Okay.
And this cannot be achieved without conflict. This cannot be achieved without cohesion. This cannot be achieved in a stable region, in a stable environment. So Israel drifts in conflict. On the 13th of June, this year, you remember the Israeli Mossad carried out an operation termed by Benjamin Netanyahu, their prime minister, called Operation the Rising Lion. I want you to understand that this operation that the Israeli government, the Israeli Mossad, undertook in Iran is illegal and it is against international law. The aim of this operation was actually to do two things. One, to overthrow the government, the Islamic Republic government in Iran, and secondly, to undermine and destroy Iran's peaceful nuclear program.
You call it peaceful?
It's a peaceful nuclear program. I call it a peaceful nuclear program because the nuclear program of Iran itself was started by the Shah. The then monarchy ruler started a nuclear program in Iran in 1950. And this program was the infrastructure of Iranian nuclear program was built by the United States and the Germans prior to when their relationship with the United States got sour in 1979. So it's a peaceful program because over time Iran has been a faithful member of the nuclear non-proliferation regime. Iran allows inspection of the IAEA, which is the United Nations watchdog, for inspection. So Iran, and of course there have been reports that Iran, after giving up on most of its centrifuges that was used to refine uranium, purify uranium in 2023, there was a fatwa by the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, that Iran cannot develop nuclear weapon. You know what a fatwa is. If a religious cleric, an Islamic religious cleric, declare a fatwa, is like a decree. It's a religious decree that, look, we don't want to develop nuclear weapon. There is no need to develop nuclear weapon because nuclear weapon is contrary to the principle of the Islamic rule. So the Iranian government have not pursued any nuclear program. Prior to 2023, they reduced they gave up their centrifuges, okay, and then they in 2015 there was a JCPOA called Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action that was signed by the nuclear power nation together with Iran, with 3 European nations, including the United States. This nuclear non-proliferation agreement that was signed, called JCPOA, was in 2015 to relieve Iran of sanctions, because since 1953, when the Iranian government decided to nationalize its oil, they have been under a sanction from the United States. But in 2015, the Islamic Republic of Iran entered into an agreement with the United States and world nation called the JCPOA, reducing in that JCPOA agreement, Iran was only allowed to enrich uranium up to 3.5%, which is not weapon grade. 3.5% is enough for a domestic nuclear program, like developing nuclear fuel to power the nuclear reactors in their nuclear plant and supply electricity. But that was okay. And now, one of the benefits of that agreement for the Iranian was that if they agree for a 3% enrichment, and there's this agreement, America will remove the sanction on them. They will enjoy sanction relief. Okay? But in 2016, when Donald Trump came into power in the United States, he actually unilaterally withdrew the Americans from that deal. When he withdrew the Americans from that deal, sanction was placed on the Iranian regime. And so they said that, look, we are not enjoying the benefit of the JCPOA. And now the European partners to this agreement, instead of them follow, Europe oftentimes behaves subserviently to America. Once the American leadership makes a decision, European countries will fall in line. So many European companies that were working in Iran pull off. There was sanction on Iran oil export. So this greatly affected the Iranian government. So they decided that they were going to, have a snapback. They started enriching uranium as a countermeasure to American unilateral withdrawal from that agreement. That agreement was supposed to be expiring October 2025. But until now, Iran has not enjoyed the benefit of that agreement that they had with the West. Iran, according to the United Nations nuclear treaty, the NPT treaty that was signed, Iran has rights to enrich uranium. There is nowhere in the NPT agreement that was signed that Iran does not have the right to enrich uranium.
Okay, let me quickly butt in there. Now, the June 13, was what actually changed the narrative when the military chief of Iran was killed. Now, with all of these conflicts, let us look at, is it not affecting the broader Middle East region?
Well, I think what Israel did is basically going to actually almost would have escalated issue to a point where it will affect the entire. Already the Middle East is a very hot zone. Already we are experiencing a genocide ongoing in Gaza, where we have about 40,000 Palestinians killed. 40,000 Palestinians killed, more than 1 million injured in that occupied territory there in Gaza. And a lot of countries are coming together to see how they can negotiate, to stop the ongoing crisis there. And Benjamin Netanyahu to have declared a war on Iran with the pretext of trying to, destroy Iran nuclear, what he says is a nuclear threat to Israel. I think that is unfounded. The one of the things that would have happened had that war continued is that Iran would have closed the Strait of Hormuz, which is in the Persian Gulf, which almost a third of the world oil trade passes through. And once Iran would have done that, then we would have experienced energy crisis across the globe. A lot of economies will be seriously affected. But thank God for the peace negotiation. I think Qatar carry out a negotiation with the United States, spoke to a diplomatic tower with the United States, to see how they can find a peaceful way of resolving that conflict. But this is it. Israel has no right to accuse Iran of weaponizing its nuclear program. Tulsi Gabbard, she's the head of the security intelligence security this thing in the United States. Tulsi Gabbard, once having a hearing at the U.S. Senate, said that there's no evidence that Iran is currently pursuing any nuclear program, that there any weapon grade program, nuclear weapon grade program, that Iran's program is domestic. That was the report in the U.S. Senate from the American-owned intelligence source. Contrary to what the Prime Minister of Israel is saying. Now, the Israeli government in the first place has no right to point a finger at the Iranian. The Iranian program until date, what we know is that it is a peaceful domestic nuclear program. They have no right. It was a pure aggression. It was a breach of international law to commit such a war crime and invade or attack another country. In the first place, Israel is not a member of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The Israeli government started a covert nuclear bomb program in the 1980s. Prior to 1982, Israel has already developed nuclear weapon. In fact, it was the Israeli government that shared nuclear weapon technology with South Africa during the apartheid regime. Apartheid South Africa in 1982 and 1980 had an ongoing nuclear program. So
you see this as hypocrisy?
It's a pure hypocrisy. They have no right. In fact, it was opened to the world by an Israeli, a Jewish man named Mordecai Vanunu in 1986. Was the one that exposed Israeli covert nuclear weapon program to the British media.
Okay, quickly, let's look at the U.S. interest here, because some people are saying that Donald Trump, President of the United States of America, is more like a busybody. What's his interest between this Israeli-Iranian war?
I want you to understand one thing. The American elites, the people who were able to build America to become what America is, are basically the Jews. The Jews constitute the elite of the American state. America, as you and I know, is running an empire. America is seen to be an empire. And America wants to dominate most of the world resources. How do they do this? America projects its power in the Middle East. It has more than 800 military bases in the Middle East. America has a military base in Saudi Arabia, it has in Bahrain, it has in Qatar, it has in United Arab Emirates, it has illegally a base in Syria, it has a base illegally in Iraq, it has a base almost everywhere in the Middle East. Now the aim is this: America wants to dominate the Middle East, control the security of the Middle East, hence control the resources of the Middle East. So Iran, for more than 40 years now, Iran has been the envy of the West. Why? Because the Islamic Republic of Iran is a theocratic democracy. It is a system of government that is not in line with Western dictate, which is why most of the time they will be termed as a dictatorship and all that. The Iranian regime is a smart government, a theocratic democracy. The supreme leader is the clerical head of the Islamic Republic, and then they still have a president that is the people's popular elected representative. And their government has been such a government that does not allow foreign influence. Remember, the United States and Iran had one of the best relationships in the 1950s. I want you to understand that it was the United States and the British government that propped up the Shah of Iran, the then monarchy regime. In fact, the United States and Great Britain control 40% of all the Iranian oil wealth in 1950, prior to 1950 and in the 1950s. It was a man called Mohammad Mossadegh. Mossadegh was the prime minister of Iran under the Shah. Mossadegh vowed for the nationalization of Iran's oil, energy resources, and when he did, the West, relationship with the West became sour. In fact, there is a report in 2008 by the Pentagon that revealed that it was the United States that sponsored a coup that overthrew the democratically elected prime minister of Iran in 1953, Mohammad Mossadegh, which is why the Islamic Republic of Iran, after the revolution, decided to have a very sour relationship. They have not been able to, forgive the American or align with the American because they know what the American wants. America wants to control Iran. This is why Iran is strategically positioned. It is the gateway between Asia, Africa, and the West. A lot of trade are done from Asia through Iran. So whoever controls the Persian Gulf controls the oil imports, energy transit. So Iran controls that waterway, and aside from that, Iran has one of the biggest oil and gas reserve, which is why American interest is there. Today most of the world nations are selling their petroleum product, their energy product in the dollar. So if Iran continue to sell its petroleum product in the dollar, then America financial agenda, which is the American financial dominance globally, will be retained. The dollar standard will be preserved, okay? But the current government regime in Iran today is not in alignment with Western diktats. It is a government of national interest. The Iranians are after their national interest. For instance, now they sell most of their petroleum product to China using the Chinese yuan or do barter trades. Okay, so they have undermined or de-dollarized their economy, and this is not part of American interest. So the United States of America is looking for a regime change. Okay. You heard Donald Trump in one of his posts talking about regime change in Iran, but that will be very difficult because the government in Iran is well consolidated. The people remember their history. The Iranians are smart people. They are very intelligent people. These are people who build their military-industrial complex. Iran is not 100% or 50% dependent on a purchase of military hardware. Iran has been able to launch satellite into space. So Iran is an Islamic success, which is why I want to use this opportunity to speak to the Nigerian audience. There is nothing that we cannot do. For Nigeria to be, there's a security threat actually now in Africa. You are aware of the military junta in Niger Republic and in Burkina Faso and Mali. And these are neighboring countries. So there's a threat to Nigerian national security. It's just that we're not realizing this. This is why Nigerian government has to immediately begin to build a military industrial complex to be able to protect its security interests. Because we're seeing these countries aligning with Russia. Russia is after their national interest. You understand? I remember in 2014 when we had this Boko Haram crisis And then the Nigerian government under Goodluck Jonathan applied to buy weapons from the West. They refused to sell Nigeria weapons. In fact, they prescribed their own domestic law on Nigerian. The Lehi Treaty, they punished Nigerian. I think they said Nigerian military violate human rights. So they used that pretext to stop Nigeria from purchasing weapons to contain those terrorists, as at the time when we were suffering this terrorist attack in 2014. So this is something that affected us directly, which is why the Nigerian government must build a solid, in fact, we must have a national defense security plan, something for a short-term and a long-term projected security plan for ourselves. Because you see what happened with Iran. This is a country on its own. Israel said they have spent 20 years to gather intelligence in Iran. 20 years to gather intelligence. There were small reports coming. They said that Israeli Mossad were smuggling drones from Azerbaijan that shares border with Iran, and then they were able to form drone bases in Iran where they were able to assemble most of these drones that were based with weapons, domestically developed weapons, locally developed weapons. The source material. These guys are experts. The Mossad, they carry out this operation in Iran, taking out their IRGC chief, which is Iran military Revolutionary Guard military chief. They took out the man, he was killed, and most of Iranian nuclear scientists were also assassinated. All this operation was done within Iran. So it's actually, that's a failure for the Iranian security. This thing, it's a big failure, because when you see your country facing such a threat, or there are threats, because before now Benjamin Netanyahu was talking about, canvassing for attacking Iran, and all that. So they were supposed to have a counter-terrorism operation on ground, to uproot. Iran is very good in cyber warfare. The Iranians are very good in cyber warfare. In fact, during the 12-day war with Israel, they were able to hack all the security cameras in Israel to take out footage of their missile strike. Do you understand? And they are very smart people. So,
okay, so sorry, let me come in there, because we are really out of time. Okay. But quickly, we saw a call for ceasefire. Now, I'm sure these are all steps hopefully taken to reduce tension. Quickly, let's see, how can these two nations, it's indeed having an interesting moment with you, how can these two nations work towards a peaceful resolution?
Well, they have said that they want to denuclearize Iran. I'm saying that's very impossible. The current regime in Iran will not sell out their national interest. Every country, there's no nation in the world that has monopoly of knowledge. The Iranians have the right to enrich uranium and carry out nuclear science research. Okay, so that is the first thing. That interest, Israel will not be, and the world will not be able to stop Iran from developing their nuclear technology. That's one. Number two, I find it difficult to project. In fact, the peace resolution or the ceasefire is a fragile ceasefire. And let me tell you why there was that ceasefire. The Iranian has a lot of stockpiles of missiles because they produce those domestically. But Israel developed their missile. Israel has a defense system called the Iron Dome defense system. Now, this defense system make use of interceptor batteries. These interceptors are the one that intercepts missiles, incoming missiles, from the air. Now, Israel was running out of interceptor batteries. Since 1940, they have never been a nation. In fact, since 1950, they have never been a nation that has been able to attack the Israeli home front in any battle. For the first time, the Israeli home front was, breached by who? Iran. So, Israeli interceptor batteries was running out. It was Israel who called for this ceasefire. They knew the entire country would have been flattened. So they actually worked with Qatar, and the Qatarians called Donald Trump, and they walked away for a peace to call for a ceasefire. So, this ceasefire is for the benefit of both parties, because these are their leverage. Whilst Israel declared that they dominate Iranian airspace with their jet fighters, which is sophisticated 5th generational jet fighters, Iran was able to breach their defense system and also dominate their airspace. You understand? And Iran had more missiles to fire. So Israel would have lost the war. You understand? Regardless of the fact that they are operating, and mind you, Israel and Iran does not share border. These guys are 1,000 miles away. The only way Israel has been able to attack Iran is because, one, the United States of America provide intels to the Israeli Mossad. They are working in tandem with the Israeli Mossad. That's number one. The United States provide jet fighters, their personnel, alongside with the IDF, Israeli Air Force fighters. They are the one carrying out that bombing campaign in Iran, because they are using American base in Jordan, American base in Syria, American base in Iraq. Those are the bases where these fighter jets are refueling from air tankers to strike Iran. Because an Israeli jet cannot fly from Tel Aviv to Iran. It will need to be refueled in the air, and it is American air tankers that are refueling these jet fighters, and they are moving from American base, because everywhere, all the military bases in Israel were targeted by the Iranian missiles, and there were lots of damages. It's just that the Western mainstream media, CNN and the rest, are not really reporting. They are actually biased. I mean, I have to be frank with you, they are biased. In fact, you see them talk about a country that attacked the leader. They're even talking publicly about the willingness to assassinate the supreme leader of another nation. This is contrary to international law. It is wrong for you to openly in public say you want to assassinate the leader of another country. This is what caused the First World War, when people began to assassinate prime ministers and elected leaders of countries. This is what caused the First World War.
So it's just a matter of yes or no. Are we looking at the third one?
I think this conflict is a very fragile ceasefire. Okay. I think most of they are regrouping. They are going back to see where they make mistakes. For the Iranians, I got a report that they are currently purchasing Chinese, because what the Iranians were using were their domestically developed radar air defense system.
So you think that this might likely culminate into the Third World War?
The chances that it will be a world war is quite difficult. Okay. I think right now the Iranian government have decided to ban the International Nuclear Atomic Energy Agency from inspection in Iran, because Rafael Grossi was very partial in his report that gave the West a pretext to attack Iran. So he is supposed to be an unbiased party to this. So already Iran has banned the international agency from coming in, and I've heard that their Senate are drafting documents to withdraw from the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. So I'm seeing that the Iranians are definitely going to build a nuclear bomb, because the only way that Iran can protect and consolidate its government to avoid regime change, to avoid destabilization, chaos that will divide the country, they have to develop a nuclear weapon. That is my position, and I think that is the position of most of the hardliners in Iran. They are going to develop. What the Israelis and the American government did is indirectly pushing Iran to develop nuclear weapons. So I'm not seeing that regime surrendering to the diktat of the West. It is not going to happen. So what will happen is that Iran is going to further fortify and build a more stronger military defense to counter Western influence and threats.
Thank you so very much, Idem, Emmanuel. Idem, indeed, I've had a great time talking with you. You've opened up a whole lot on the Israel-Iran war. Thank you. It's been a great time talking with Idem Emmanuel. Idem Emmanuel is a geopolitical analyst and security expert. Thank you. We look forward to having you more. As the hostilities unfold, we'll see how we can bring you more to talk to us on that.
All right. Thank you very much.
And this is where we'll be bringing the show to an end this Sunday. Join us again the first Sunday in July 2025. Till then, my name is Joseph Ian. Have a splendid evening. Good night.